I find that a lot of people use belts as a crutch almost.
I use it as a kinesthetic cue to remind myself to brace. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Gym Talk. My name is Cameron Harn.
My name is Danny Lou.
The show is about talking about relevant topics related to the fitness industry. Today is our overrated versus underrated series, and we're going to dive into lifting belts. Are they overrated or are they underrated? I think I'm going to start off with, I think they're a little underrated.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
It is interesting.
So, again, as per usual, we will start with the fact that on this show, we love to dive into the nuance and the specifics of every situation, everybody's individual needs and preferences and stuff like that. But the purpose of this video is to dive into the nuance, maybe talk about the certain situations, but ultimately, at the end of the day, in our personal opinion, come to a binary conclusion. That doesn't mean it's the answer for everybody. That's just a fun thing that we like to do. I think I could be swayed either way, but personally, I'm going to have to go with overrated.
Overrated.
Yes.
Why?
And this is hard for me. I'm not going to lie to you. This is hard for me because I could go either way. My issue with belts is that I see people often using them that necessarily, not that they shouldn't be, but that would benefit from not using it. Now, I care about hypertrophy first and foremost. So if anything, I should be on your side. The more stability you have during training for hypertrophy, the better, because you get to focus on whatever muscle you're targeting better. But in terms of, I do care about the functionality of exercise. At the end of the day, I don't want to turn to Ronnie Coleman. God, I love what he did, but now he's walking like in a wheelchair because he was doing some crazy movements, hurt himself. I find that a lot of people use belts as a crutch almost because they don't know how to properly brace it, and then I'm afraid that leaking into everyday life, they go to pick up their grandson and they throw their back out for something stupid. I think that's just my personal opinion on it, and I do use a belt, which is the funny part. I use it a lot, but I don't use it every day. I don't use it all the time, and I find that I see so many people wearing belts, and it grinds my gears sometimes. So I'm like, unless you have a very specific goal, you really kind of don't need to be wearing it.
That makes sense, and I can see where you're coming from. The reason why I said they're underrated is because for me, and I hear everything that you're saying, some people just throw on a lifting belt just to have it on, and they did use it the entire time they're working out. They're using it when they're doing bench, which in like a powerlifting setting, that makes sense.
Very normal, yeah.
But when they're just doing chest press or whatever, they're throwing it on, they're using it. That's a little ridiculous. The only reason why I say it's underrated is because for me, coming from a strength training background, I use it as a kinesthetic cue to remind myself to brace. Now, what I'll do is I have an SPD lever belt.
Ooh,
I know.
The nice one.
I got the Cadillac of lifting belts, bro.
Yes, you do.
So what I'll do is I'll put it on, but I won't latch it. I'll keep it on pretty loose because what I'm trying to focus on is creating tension and having that just around my waist is a reminder, hey, brace. Like, I want to fill that belt up, push my belly against it, and have that stability before I go into my heaviest sets and I latch it and I'm ready to go. So bracing is something that I've always had a problem with, and it led to a lot of injuries because I didn't know how to brace properly. And, thankfully with a lot of the core activation stuff that I've been doing in my routine, plus having the belt on is just a reminder for me lift. And I want to be the strongest version of myself that I could possibly be. But I also want to be able to do this until I'm in like my 80s. Like, my dream would be to finish my workout at 90 or 100 years old and then die in my car.
On the way home.
On the way home, bro.
Yeah.
Like, that is like the dream. So for me, I see the long term of lifting, and I want to be stable, I want to be safe, and I'm going to practice my bracing by putting my belt on. That is where my stance is for making it underrated. Do people use it unnecessarily? Absolutely. Do they just walk around the gym with a lifting belt without even... a lot of people don't even understand how to use it properly, which could lead to it being overrated. But I think if you understand the mechanics of it, how to use it properly, and you're being thoughtful about it, it's a good tool.
And then, for me, here's where the issue comes into play: is that I would say a solid 98% of gym goers do not know how to use it properly. Now, what percentage of gym goers are wearing a belt? I would probably say
Very few.
I would probably say 10%. If
You think 10%?
I think so. I see a lot of belts in the gym.
No way.
Really?
10%. There are 100 people in there. 10 people wearing a belt. I don't see that on any given day.
You're right. Maybe 5. No, you're right. When you simple like that, I would maybe go down to 5.
Yeah, I would say on any given day, maybe 1 or 2%.
Well, here's the thing too: is if it was what chamber that we're in, I go to Gold's. Is the main gym that I go to. Gold's, mix in 24, mix in some other powerlifting gyms that I used to go to. So maybe I just see it a lot more. I just see a lot of people wearing belts and a lot of people using them incorrectly. They don't know how to use them. Not to mention the amount of geriatric folks I see, like you're saying, you're walking around the gym wearing a belt, and they're typically wearing like a what the material is I'm looking for, but they're wearing like a sports material, so you can see that it's like not just like on loose, it's on tight.
Yeah.
And you could see that it's like they're using it as like an aid to walk around. And I'm like, why don't you just work on your core strength and stability instead of throwing a Band-Aid on there? You know, because you keep that up, eventually in 5-10 years, you probably won't even be able to fucking sit down on the toilet. Like, that's where my issue comes. A lot of people don't know how to use it, and they don't know what to prioritize in terms of what kind of stability actually matters. But that being said, I use a belt. Does that make me a hypocrite? I don't know. But I also do like using it, like you're saying, as a kinesthetic cue. I typically, for the way I use it, is I do usually 3 to 4, depending on how I'm feeling that day, ramp up sets to get to my working weight. And for the first 2 to 3, I will not use a belt. On the third, fourth one, depending on how I'm feeling, I will throw it on loosely, like you're saying, to feel myself brace, to push against it. And then for the very, very top one, when I'm lifting so heavy I'm going to shit my brains out, I'll tighten it a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it feels like I'm going to shit my brains out. I'm not even kidding, because you tighten it so tight, you almost feel stuff like separate from your midsection. You feel stuff go up, go down.
I've definitely never put it on that type before.
You should try it.
No,
don't try it.
No, I'm not going to do it.
I have one of the belts that's I don't have the Cadillac. I have like the 2002 Toyota Corolla. You know, it's got it's like the rings in it. It's like a regular belt almost.
Yeah.
So you got to
it's like a regular belt, right? You're pulling it
Exactly.
across and
exactly. That's the one that I use. So, but anyway, that being said, it's hard to simplify this. But if I had to say all in all for most people, I would say work on your core strength, work on your stability. That's just kind of where I stand, because most people don't want to get jacked and don't want to lift heavy.
Yeah.
So then why use a belt?
Because they're soft.
It looks cool.
It looks cool.
It looks cool, and it gets rid of pain sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. I agree with you on getting better, getting a stronger core, and working on your bracing technique. I think it can just be an aid to it, and depending on what your goals are, it is definitely a useful tool. Hence why I'm going to put it in the underrated category.
Okay. And the thing is I totally respect that stance. That's where I'm at. And that's why this series is so fun and so challenging at the same time. It's because we love to dive into the nuance, and each specific person has their own needs and desires and whatever. But are we talking about a specific person, or are we talking about the majority? If I were to say for the majority, I don't think the majority need a lifting belt. Now, does a bodybuilder? Does a powerlifter? Absolutely. I think it's totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to say overrated.
All right.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Overrated. Underrated. Everybody, if you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section below. We want to know, what do you think? Are lifting belts overrated or underrated? As you've heard our discussion, it kind of depends, but we're going to keep the binary the way that it is, and we want to hear your thoughts on it. Anyway, please stay tuned for the next episode. Have a good one.